Hello, this is Jackie B. Peterson. I am your host today on Solo Pro Radio, and I want to talk with you for a short moment about my business called Better, Smarter, Richer. Better, Smarter, Richer is a workbook designed to help solopreneurs find financial success. I hope you will go to my website, bettersmarterricher.com, and check out what we've got going on that website. You can sign up for the newsletter, and you can also check out the calendar of upcoming events. We are beginning our next Encore Entrepreneur Program at the Willow Creek campus of Portland Community College on October 9th. We have another one planned to start at the Climb Center of Portland Community College on October 30th. And on November 18th, we will be beginning our next in-person Better, Smarter, Richer study group. You can also sign up for the newsletter, and you can download a free copy of the ebook explaining the 7 principles of Better, Smarter, Richer. Hope you'll go there. Today on our show, our guest is Sandra Suran. Sandra is the owner of the Suran Group, where she specializes in helping organizations change and grow. Before starting her consulting practice, she built a very successful CPA firm, which she merged into a national firm. Her understanding of business was so highly respected that she was hired by the state of Oregon to develop a strategic plan for small business in Oregon and lead the implementation of the small business programs for the entire state. Sandra has many professional accomplishments, the most recent of which is that she has written and just published her book, The DNA of the Resilient Organization, in which she draws upon her years of experience to guide and advise organizations through their journey of growth, change, and development. Hello, Sandra.
Hello, Jackie.
I'm so glad you could be here today.
Thanks.
Yes, this is great. You know, Sandra, I've known you for a long time, and one of the things I've just long admired about you is your big picture thinking. You know, time and again, I've seen you raise up your clients and their thinking to take them to bigger markets and successful growth. So what is it, do you think, in your background that's given you this talent for big picture thinking? Are you able to identify it? You're really good at it.
Well, thank you. And I've gotten lots of people recently who've been asking me that same question since the book came out. And I give them my professional answer, which I'll give you in a second, but they keep asking, say, well, it's something deeper. And so I finally come to one answer, and perhaps that's even more interesting. And it's my early background, even before I started working. And that seems to be the consensus of where it started, because I have a little bit of a different background. I'm half Guyanese and spent my early years in what was then called British Guiana. So it was that kind of old world background and the family around me and the kinds of things they were doing. Then after that, I changed schools, went to 9 different grade schools. And, of course, that took getting into a new environment every year. And so that I think that was part of it. And then my dad was in banking, and he became a turnaround specialist in the financial industry, especially with savings and loans. I worked with him summers and from the time I was 17 and worked with his organization, and I helped out when people were on vacation. So I worked in every department of that organization, from being a teller to the insurance department to working in the construction inspections, working on loans, working in the accounting department, which is where I fell in love with the all of the just putting numbers together, and at the end of every day it was the game of, is everything going to work and come together? So I think that part of it was the first part, and when I come to that, people say, aha, that makes sense. all of that is what gave you your big picture view. But then it was my background as an auditor. And I tell people that I use that skill on every single project I do because, of course, there are two different kinds of CPAs. There's the tax-focused and audit-focused. An audit-focused person is, of course, in order to do that, you have to look at the organization from the time that a customer calls in or wants to purchase a product until the product is delivered. So you're looking at all segments, all aspects of the organization and how all the pieces fit together.
That is so interesting. That is so, and you know, you're right. It is both your early background. I mean, you were almost destined to become a CPA with a background like you had, and the work with you did with your father. And you know, I'm sure that you just, I'm sure you didn't think hard about too many different careers other than some in financial with the background that you have. And then to move into accounting and auditing particularly, you know, where you look at relationships between things. I mean, I've often thought that the wonderful thing about accounting is that it teaches you that when you press a lever way over on the right-hand side, something moves way over here on the left-hand side. And, you know, that the whole system interacts. And I think that's what you're talking about, that, you know, with your auditing experience, right? That, you know, how
right.
it all relates. Go ahead.
And even more so, I specialized in small and mid-sized companies and then sort of graduated into complex government and larger organizations. But so that spectrum of different kinds of companies that you get when you're not just working on one larger organization or one organization, 5 even. I've worked with like hundreds of them. And so when you're doing that, you get to compare what made the difference here as far as the way they went about handling their strategies for growth or their strategies for hiring people, their strategies for managing their money. And when you see it across a lot of different organizations, you'd start seeing what works and what doesn't work in lots of different kinds of situations.
So actually you've been researching this book for a time.
I'd say over 30 years. Yeah. Without
fantastic.
Realizing it.
Yeah. Oh, that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, until my client started saying, you've got to get this down. Nobody else does it like this. And I didn't even know what I did differently. But I think it's with all of that perspective. And
yes.
It's looking at the different organizations, looking at what makes the difference between organizations that are successful, changes that are successful.
Wow. So that's actually my next question. You know, you've moved on from public accounting into a very successful consulting firm, and you've done many strategic planning and organizational restructuring engagements, and it just seems to be a huge specialty that you with that perspective that you got. So what does it take to make such large and comprehensive change work? You know, what does an organization need to do, and you know, how do you make it work?
Well, there are a number of aspects that part of it is understanding what real strategic planning is, as opposed to changing, or as opposed to planning for smaller changes or changes in your operations, changes in the way you handle customers, your customer relation management. The real strategic planning that leads to successful large-scale major growth, or to just successful moves into new directions and new product lines. All of that takes pulling back and looking at the organization from a big picture. And I hear in talking with clients or in talking with audiences about strategic planning that one piece that's missed is how do you get the people involved who will be participating in the planning to take a big picture, to get outside of their day-to-day work or even their annual planning work and say, how do we make this new direction successful? And the best ways, or the ways that I've found to do that most organizations don't utilize, is getting outside the organization. That means not only bringing in expertise to participate in the strategic planning from directions that are not available internally, but it also means in the strategic planning process itself using perhaps specialists in certain areas to participate. So in other ways, going outside the organization for participants. So that's one big way.
Oh, that's really good. A lot of times people are very knowing about doing that. You know, either they are feel like they're going to be looked down upon, you know, they'll be thought of as less than because they're struggling with something, or they are worried about sharing their thinking with someone else, you know, while it's still in the formative stage. So that's quite first of all, it's a wonderful idea, and then to be able to propose it and have people agree to it is an even more wonderful idea. So good for you. Good for you. It's exciting.
Well, and it is something that you have to, of course, do very carefully. And the people who are selected and the way that they're prepared has to be very carefully done. But it's not only the outside participants, it's also preparing the people inside to bigger than the issues and problems they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So it means looking at overall for the company, getting a common understanding for everyone who's going to participate about what the organization does, where it's trying to go, what the barriers that they're facing are, the resources that they have, whether it's financial, people resources, the market position, the product or service differentiation, and saying what's wrong and what could we do better. But it's getting that big picture perspective that's most important.
And so many times the members of the company are not asked to think that way. You know, just put your head down and get the work done. Right. I would think there must be people who get very excited when you are consulting with their organization because they get included in a way that they don't often get included.
Right.
Right, yeah. So it sounds to me, you know, because one of my questions is, what do you do to make this happen, that you are, is this correct, as the consultant, are doing a tremendous amount of orchestration, okay?
Yep.
You know, like
in fact, that's all it is.
You're bringing all the all the players in. Is that right?
Right. Well, it's the facilitation. It's not only the establishing the process. It's helping to determine the people who will be there and preparing them, but it's also the systems that will be used to collect information and the communications that will be utilized not only with the people who are